Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pave It Forward podcast. My name is Phil Metzger, and with me is Kevin Gray, and we are here to help leaders in the industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Kevin, how are you today?
Good, man. I'm good. How you doing?
Doing great. Back at it. Cranking through the day. Sometimes we meet a little early in the morning, so I'm still, getting my first or second cup of coffee down, but I'm well into it today. And I've actually been working on a lot of the things for the AOS program that we have coming up. It's really getting exciting just to kind of finalize some of these deliverables that people are going to get. We have some people signing up, so it's neat to see those trickle in and all the questions we're getting. And if you have any questions about the 8-week off-season program that we're running January through February, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or reach out to Asphalt or go to asphaltoperating.com to learn more. But it really has been a blast to. It's been different because when we prepare for these weekly podcasts, we're focusing in generally on one or two things, maybe three in an episode. And so I really get to focus on putting everything together in a very, very narrowed fashion, really looking on narrowing in, but to be able to really put these packets of information together, the structure of the course, and think of the asphalt business as a whole, and then put that together with what we're offering. It's really getting pretty damn exciting, man. We're about a month away, a little less than a month away here. So man, I'm just excited. We've had, as I said, a couple of people reach out to us with questions about the program, and to be able to talk to them and to see them follow up, sign up, and then to be able to give them some of these things that they don't even know about yet, that we're going to mention today and throughout the rest of the process. It's really damn exciting. And and then especially talking to you. We're in mid-December here, and we're still rocking and rolling, still going after our goal for the season. And hearing the trials and tribulations with you, you're working your butt off over there. It feels like mid-season, and it's a lot of fun. So things are great here. And speaking of which, how are you? How's the crew? How's the work been?
We're all good, man. We're like you just said. And by the way, I know we're recording, so this will go out a little after this. But we're 3 weeks from today, we're launching our first week AOS session. So that's exciting, man. Really looking forward to that. And yeah, we're out grinding. I know we're getting ready to talk about something, off season, but that's why we're talking about the off season, because we're a seasonal business, and a lot of asphalt, paving business owners, operators are seasonal in this country. That doesn't mean that winter is time to take your foot off the gas pedal at all. So it's, I'm not saying, look, we've talked about this before too, is like, I'm not saying don't take a couple weeks, for yourself, for your family, get a little rest, get rejuvenated. But I started personally thinking about 2025 in the fourth quarter of 2024. If we don't start, October, November, December, start planning for 2025, we're going to be behind the eight ball. When the new year turns over. And I was guilty of that many years, owning and operating a business where it was, hey, let's get to the end of this year, and then we'll take a few weeks off, and then we'll really start getting focused on 2025 into January, beginning of February, and before you know it, it's March, and you're back to paving, and it's too late. So I mean, I know we're going into the winter break here, but we only got 8, 10, 11 weeks really before this thing ramps right back up again. So there's plenty to do. We got to be ready to rock. We got data to analyze. We got decisions to make. We got budgets to put together. We got equipment to take care of, and the list goes on, man. Like it's all gas, no brakes, and we're just trying to keep that mentality. We're trying to get this Boeing 737 off the ground, and this baby's loaded down and running on about a half tank of gas, and we're trying to get her up in the air. So, but it's exciting, man. This is fun. We were out yesterday, man, and we this time of year you only get about, I don't know, nine maybe 10 hours of daylight, and it's anything goes wrong, you're in a bad situation. And we haven't had, I think this is really the only day I could say this entire season that we've had multiple things go wrong. We had we had a plant go down. We had 5 or 6 rental trucks that we had to get sent over to a completely different plant, which was another. We were an hour away from anything, so we already had a 2-hour turn time on these trucks. We had to send them to a plant that was further than that. So now we're looking at a 2.5, 3-hour turn time on trucks, and we're not getting any of this information from the plant that broke down. The initial call came at 10 and said, "Hey, we're broke down. We're going to be back up in an hour." We don't hear anything. We check in at 11, they're still working on it, and at noon they say, "Hey, we're broken down." So we've got all our trucks at one place anticipating getting, and all the time we're trying to figure out how. All right, we know we're running out of time now. How can we add trucks? How can we at least get all of the material here so we've got a shot to finish this thing? And that was the goal, was to finish, because we were so far away from home base. It's like, man, uh, we've got the material ordered. Let's get it here and let's figure out how to get it done. And in turn, that turned into a 16-hour day where we started in the dark, basically in the low 30s. It got up. It was nice yesterday. Got up to the mid 50s and sunny, and then we finished at 9 o'clock last night, and it was back in the 30s, and it was a little wet. So it was a trying day, physically, mentally, and emotionally. But look, we got through it. The guys had a good attitude through all of it, and we just trudged along, and it got me to thinking, quite a bit about, this is why, people need to hire contractors that are professionals and that have been through these kinds of tests and circumstances. And the only way I knew what to do yesterday when all the shit started hitting the fan is because I've been in these situations 100 times before. It's calling the plant, it's calling the trucking company, it's calling in favors, it's coordinating all the logistics and the planning to execute what we've got to get done and deliver on the quality. So we've always got our consumers' best interests at heart. So that's, you can't, contractors that get in their head or don't have much experience, or you hire cheap or whatever it may be. A lot of times you'll find they don't know how to work through problems like that. And in the world of construction, there are problems every day. Something happens almost every day. It's just inevitable. And that's why hiring someone that's got the experience and expertise and the consumer's best interests at heart, man, can really go a long way getting the project to completion, because there's so many things throughout the course of a day. I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but we're going to talk about it, I guess.
Yeah.
There's so many things that go on through the course of a contractor's day that the consumer doesn't ever know about, nor should they ever really know about. If they've got someone that's a hired professional, um, they shouldn't see any of that stuff that happens really ever affect how that project is coordinated. And the guy we worked for yesterday, he was out there with us all day, and we were very transparent about what was going on. But we were all cool, we were calm, we were collected. We were explaining to him, this is the plan now, this is our approach now. We've had to shift a little bit, and we ended up doing a section that we hadn't planned on doing first, because that's how much material we had on site at the time before we were going to get another round of material. So we, just making those changes on the fly can be too critical to executing these projects and keeping the consumer, happy and getting what they've been promised. So it was an interesting challenge, to say the least. One, we had the best game plan in the world going into it. We knew we had from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. of daylight. And we had 300. Oh, by the way, he added 70 tons of paving for us yesterday when we got there. So we sold another, 6,000 square feet of paving that we hadn't planned for when we, put the day's plan together before we showed up. So we added that into the mix. And, when we got started, we had to even make a change to make that a reality. And, we just adjusted on the fly and got through it. So, but it was a cold, wet, rainy, long day. I will tell you that. But it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I should have. It's the end of the season. I should have been stressed out. I was, kind of, because I've got this internal logistics and profitability ticker going in my head all the time. It's just how I'm wired. Like, I'm watching our margin go down as all these things unfold, but it's like, at the end of the day, we got to deliver an awesome product for this consumer still. because that's just what we're here to do. All that stuff doesn't matter. When that stuff starts becoming the only reason we're doing things for, that's usually when things start falling apart. So run the play, do the next right thing, keep trucking along, and the rest takes care of itself, I've found over time. So
Yeah, the customer, if you value the customer, everything else does tend to kind of figure
yeah,
it's out, at least it from a problem solving angle. I do have a question about the smaller area. Was that an area that would naturally take longer due to more intricacies, more handwork, more stuff like that?
absolutely. Yeah,
That's what I was
exactly. It was an
curious about.
area.
Looking busy while you're out there, if nothing else, you know.
Yes. Well, so we got 60 tons right out of the gate from the plant. And that's when we were planning to start on the long straight pull in the back and just get these trucks unloaded as quick as possible. Just so the name of the game when you're that far away from the plant is just to get the trucks emptied as quick as possible so you can get material back to the job site. Well, they only were able to send us 60 tons out of the gate. We didn't start getting any more material till almost 2 in the afternoon after those first loads showed up at 8. So it's like, hey, we've got this area up by one of the barns is going to take, it's got 2 different areas that come together and then a couple pulls out. So we had, 7, 8, 9 different pads and pulls we had to make up in that area. It was almost kind of residential paving instead of more straight line road paving. So it was like, we got 3 trucks. We don't know when the next mix is coming. It's going to take about the amount of material we've got here on site. It wasn't the plan to start here, but this is probably the most efficient use of our time, material, and trucking for the time being. So we went ahead and knocked that out, and then we're able to rip some trucks out. When they finally did get back. So yeah.
Does not sound like the off season.
No, no, no. It was awesome, man. I mean,
Yeah.
300 tons and December 17th,
Yeah,
it's a blessing,
absolutely.
man. That's
Yeah.
great. We've got a 400 or 500 ton mill and overlay that I'll never say we've got the job until I've got, because I've said that 100 times in my career. Oh yeah, that job sold. He told me they were going to do it. And, until I get that thing inked and we've got a signed contract, I won't say that, but it looks like we're going to get a job, signed this Friday. That's a 400 or 500 ton mill and overlay job that they're trying to open up in January. And I just found out yesterday that at least one of the plants around here is going to be open until January 17th. And it looks like mid-50s after Christmas. So this crew isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Like we're still got the gas pedal down, man.
How is your crew responding to this? Are they liking? I mean, obviously, you're at this point you're hoping for maybe 3 days a week that you can get some solid paving in. Are they okay with like the ambiguity and the extra money is great, or are they hindered by only being able to work a certain day or two a week without knowing what day that is?
No, they've been good, and it's that's kind of been the MO all season. We'll have spurts where we're working 3 or 4 days a week for a few days straight, and then either by weather or by just the way the workload has come in, or restrictions that haven't allowed us to get onto projects because we're waiting on another, trade to finish up or whatever it may be. We're just in the production scheduling, whatever point of the project is in. So it's been a little hit or miss with the guys for most of the season, so they've been pretty accustomed to it. And we pay them really good on the days we do work, and we've got a group of guys that are buying into the vision and the future, and are willing to take this ride with us, whatever it kind of looks like for the first couple of years of being a startup company, essentially. So we've all made a commitment to each other that we're here, we're in it, we're going to do whatever we can to stay busy and to get productive. I've made a promise to each gentleman. I said I'm gonna sell every single thing I can, that makes sense for us as a business to go out and do, so we can all, feed our families and pay our mortgages and things like that, and keep a roof over our head and food on the table. So yeah, it's been a lot. There's been a lot of buy-in, and the coolest thing that's happened the last couple of weeks. A lot of the bigger companies in town, at least a few of them, have already started laying off some of their crews. So There's been guys that have worked for me over the last 15 years that are reaching out and saying, "Hey, if you got any work, love to come work with you guys for a day." So we've had a couple of guys in here the last 2-3 weeks that have that I haven't seen in a year and a half, couple of years, man, that have come out and provided a huge helping hand. But it's just really cool to be able to lay some asphalt with them and reconnect with them and catch up and put down some amazing work together. So
Heck
it's been
yeah.
pretty cool, man.
And they got a little extra funding for a few more presents
And
under
they
the
got it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Yeah, it's a
wonderful.
win-win, man. We can certainly use, we've ran 5-6 man max, five most of the year, kind of paving crew. And you know, you can pull that off when the temperatures and the weather and the conditions are all favorable. But a day like yesterday when it's drizzly 30, starting the 30s, gets up to 50 back. It takes some experience and some guys that have got some repetition working in conditions like that. So it's been a big help to have some of those seasoned veterans around that uh, we necessarily haven't had all year. And I'm extremely proud of the guys we do have. And we've had a couple guys for most of the season that this is really their first year, doing asphalt. They did a couple jobs with us last year, man, but um, just to see the growth that's happened over the course of this season, uh, even with myself included and some of the other guys, a couple other guys that have been doing it a long time, just to see the things we've learned and the ways we've improved this year with efficiencies, with techniques. You get down to a 5-man crew, everybody, and I've talked about this, everybody's got to do a little bit of something. So we've all been able to sharpen the sword a little bit because we're being forced to do. We don't just have a job. We're not just running a rake or a shovel or a screw or a rope, like we're getting a lot of practice. We're getting a lot of reps, and it's been good. And we talk about things, and we're open, and we communicate, and we all have an understanding of what the standard should be and what it can look like, and we're kind of always just pushing each other and teaching and showing, try this, try that. Hey, have you ever thought about this, boss? Let's do it. Like, that's awesome. Let's do that from now on. New system implemented.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a lot of free thinking and a lot of camaraderie and a lot of man, just a lot of getting stuff done, as a
Yeah.
collective group. It's been pretty fun. I'm still having fun.
That's interesting. Go ahead, please.
I would say it's the end of December and I'm still smiling about paving. It's
Yep.
I'm having a good time. Are we where we want to be yet? Probably not, but I can see I know where we're headed.
Will we ever be there, Kevin?
What's
There's
that?
there's always a next year with new goals.
Dude, I don't know if we'll ever, that's the problem with true entrepreneurship and visionaries and people with it. Do you ever really get there?
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I
Well, I
think
mean,
you're,
there's something to be said for, and I know you know this, you like to set high goals, and there's something to be said for that. So I completely get that. Um, I was thinking, when you were first talking about the off season, how the connotation of the off season meaning time off never really registered in my mind until you started talking about it at the start of the episode. That some people consider it a break. I just always thought of it as the paver not moving in this situation, or not being able to
yeah,
address necessarily the task that your business does. But it is so busy during the season to make little changes on the fly, like you're talking about, can be done. But when you want systemic change over the off season, this is the window we're kind of talking about. And it's the window that you said you kind of have to start addressing, even if you're still paving, even if your paving season isn't over, because eventually you're going to take that gap. I'm assuming that most companies have that gap, or at least a structured set of time during the year where they can look over everything and put some thought, the areas of their business that really need some more deep thought, rather than a quick change. This is the kind of time to do that. So today we were just going to go over some things as far as assessing your equipment. There's also some key things over the next several weeks that we're going to be going over as far as financial, team development and retention, all things that'll be part of the AOS program, by the way, in much more detail, of course. But there is a time of the year to sit back and do some planning, and I think we're getting there. because it's just too crazy during the season. You know, you have those super long days. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be great here getting into all this. We have an end of season checklist that we're going to kind of go over today, which will also be part of the AOS program. And one last piece of AOS business here. There are going to be plenty of deliverables that you're going to get with this program. We're going to have this evaluation checklist that will be going out here in a few days to everyone that's signed up, because it's the end of the season. And regardless whether our program has started yet or not, we want you to have this checklist in your hands. But we're going to also be offering a bank of questions in case when you're interviewing people, some questions that our mentors often use when interviewing. We're going to be giving you a copy of a digital employee handbook that you can use and offer yourself, that you can print off at your office whenever you have new employees or never need to reference that. We're going to go over we're going to give some safety guidelines that will be in a printable form that you can give new employees, especially employees that aren't used to a construction site, something like that. We're also going to give some quality control checklists and some custom branded content that you can show your customers, whether it be digitally or on site. We're going to give you some custom content. But now to get back to that equipment assessment and maintenance checklist. Obviously, you can try to duct tape some things together during the year. You want to get some equipment. You want to be able to have it work, but maybe you don't have the time to address certain things within the equipment. So Kevin, as you're thinking about your big money-making equipment especially, what are some of the things that are kind of going through your head as far as things to address in the off season?
Well, it's a lot. I'll say that. I'm going to address a lot because it's we have ridden this stuff hard this year. It is all used equipment. It's lightly used equipment. Some of it, we do have a few new and or newer pieces. And we've been acquiring more and more, equipment and additional things that help us be more productive and efficient throughout the year. My Tony, my partner in all this, I mean, he's kind of on the operations side. I'm more on the business. I mean, we're all in the operations right now. It just is what it is. But he's taken some of the profits out of his piece of the business, and he's kind of handled purchasing and acquiring some of this new equipment. He just found us a nice new setup for a truck and trailer that we're trying to get, because we've got a lot of pickup trucks pulling a lot of trailers. We've got one big kind of semi that's pulling our paver trailer. We're just trying to get everything condensed to where we're just more effective moving equipment around. We're more effective moving manpower around. We're not burning so much fuel and having to insure so much stuff, and on and on and on. You're just trying to kind of cut down to get the right pieces in place. I mean, he's transitioning out of owning and operating a tree service into now full time into the paving service. So some of those things that he owned and possessed prior to worked for both, and some we're trying to figure out a way. We're going all in on this paving venture now, so it's starting to take a little bit more of that shape. But and look, we don't. We've talked about this throughout this year. We do not, and that's something. Looking at a couple places right now, we're trying to find somewhere we can call home and set up home base with some office space and a shop. That's probably the biggest hindrance to anything we're doing right now, is not just having a centralized location. Because some point over this winter, we're going to have to get this stuff cleaned up really well, so you got to get it really clean first before you can really take a good look at what might be going on with it, and just start going piece by piece, mechanical function by function on the paver, on the skid steers, on the rollers, and just making sure all the systems are operating the way they should be. Are they functional, and basically getting them ready to go for next year? Like, it's not, hey, let's just get this stuff duct tape and fixed and to get us through another few weeks. It's like, let's assume we've got to get these things ready to go for an entire next season. And that's the mentality and approach we got to take with these things. So, and that's why we've kind of built these checklists out too, man. It gives a detailed, what to look for, how to look for it, what pieces of the equipment are important. And a lot of it sounds fundamental and basic, but I mean, I bought a bit, got involved in a paving business in 2009, bought a paving business in 2011, and it wasn't because I just always assumed I had people that knew how to take care of this stuff, which in turn I found out they didn't give a shit about any of mine or our stuff. So it was kind of getting neglected. So until I really took an interest in, and I'm not saying the president or owner of the company has got to know each and every piece of machinery and everything about it that goes on, but you better have a pretty good handle on it so you can understand if this stuff's getting taken care of, and or rely on a reputable dealer in town that you can take some of these pieces to and have them thoroughly inspect it. They'll do a lot of these dealers. I know our cat dealer does. They'll take our stuff and they'll do a thorough evaluation on it and give us a diagnosis on every piece and part of that equipment, and then give recommendations on what are some of the most important things that need to be addressed, fixed, corrected, whatever. Or is it time to trade in this piece of machinery and get into something a little newer. As this thing ran its life cycle, and there comes a point in a machine's life cycle where it's time to start making another decision on on reinvesting in a newer piece. So it's yeah, we're going to be getting into all that.
Yeah. So do you are there certain pieces of equipment that you will take in every year? Is it only if there is seemingly a problem? Like, how do you kind of determine uh what can, I guess, is it only the paver that you can kind of go in and get that diagnostic testing, or how does that kind of work with your equipment?
You can as long as they've got time, and you've got to, if you're going to go the dealership route. There are tons of folks that are going to be bringing equipment to them over the downtime to get evaluated and or fixed. So you got to get on a list, late fall, to start getting some time reserved to get your machine in. But I like to take my paver in every off season and just have a cat, and look, I know, and Tony, and we've got several, a couple people on the team that know that machine very well, but there's nothing like having a Caterpillar trained technician that works on these machines day in and day out and really know all of the mechanics and how they work together and how everything's intertwined and connected, and how different things affect each other on the machine, and really have them go through it. And because they'll catch things we won't catch. Just because, and we can only inspect it so much. Like, they put them up on racks. They take the screed off. They'll look at the tractor and then the screed separately. It's they'll go through a detailed process to get these things looked at a little further than we can just in a shop or a bay. They can access it quite a bit easier and better than we can. So at least for now, until we get that shop that's got the rack and all the goodies in it, man. But that's where we're going to be able to do some of this stuff internally. But I still like having that certified and trusted guy from the dealership taking a look at our stuff. It just, I don't know. You get what you pay. It costs a little more money to do it that way, but you get what you pay for. And if this piece of machinery alone is responsible for essentially every dollar of revenue that we turn as a business, then we need to make sure it's in pretty damn good shape going into the next year. So
Sure, especially if the problem's going to cause it to be a bigger cost down the line to fix it.
absolutely, yeah. And
Exactly.
that preventative stuff, that preventative maintenance is huge, because that's the kind of day in, day out stuff, the weekly stuff, the monthly stuff that needs to be going on in this machinery that can really, save you from a big ticket in the future.
Do they require you to clean it pretty well beforehand, or are there any other tips before taking it in? Because I can see a lot of business owners that maybe have not done that in the past, taking it in for a thorough diagnostic. Is there any other kind of prep work or advice before doing that?
You don't have to do shit. They'll gladly charge you $1,600 to clean your machine.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's typically, you know, $1,500 to $2,000 for them to clean that machine, you know, however many shop hours. And look, they clean it pretty meticulously, so sometimes it's worth it, you know, depending on you know, let's face it, not everybody keeps their equipment looking like the guys at American Pavement keep their equipment looking. And it's can we all? Should we all? Absolutely, because clean equipment, it's easier to work with, it's easier to work on, it's easier to diagnose, it's brand, the list of positive things that come out of keeping a piece of equipment clean is pretty endless. And uh, but I think, like, as we've talked about, you know, we all get so busy that a lot of the times, and I've been guilty of it myself, you know, taking better care or just keeping the pieces of equipment cleaner can become a problem. So that's, you know, the cleaner the better, you know.
Sure. Uh,
Um,
as you kind of go through the off season and you live with this equipment and the operators live with this equipment, so I imagine you have a pretty good idea just by working with it how much time and effort it's causing you. And another reference I'm going to here is maybe you're getting online and there are so many freaking new tools. I saw a new type of broom that you could hook up to a skid steer um, in order to sweep better, to sweep certain areas of lots. And where I'm getting at with this is buying new equipment. How, you know, as you're going through this process of the winter and seeing what equipment is good and trying to do some analysis on whether even a piece of equipment is necessary. Can you kind of go through your thought process as far as evaluating equipment in general and at what point maybe it might be time to move on versus just repairing and even trying to get through another season?
yeah, man, and that's in my opinion, that can only be done really well if you have a solid understanding of what kind of scopes of work you're going to be getting into for the next year, or having um, observed enough in the season prior to say, hey, it took us a long time to do this because we had to do it all manually and didn't have the right piece of equipment, or our guys weren't trained well enough, and we really could have we did it cost us this many man hours having to do it this way. And if we were to just buy a piece of equipment, the savings that we would it would actually cost us less money to buy that piece of equipment and increase our efficiencies. So a lot of the times when I look at, you know, equipment purchases and acquisitions or attachments, you know, it's really understanding um, how it you know what's my ROI going to be on that? What is it can't be an expense. It's got to be an investment. You know, I don't buy stuff just to buy stuff because it's new and flashy and fancy and cool. Because you take me to one of these paving expos, I could take one of everything. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's shit's cool. It's amazing. It's fun. It's like being a kid in the sandbox playing with your Tonka toys, like for adults.
sure,
It's the best thing in the world, in my opinion.
sure.
Um, but it's, you know, it's understanding your business and understanding your manpower and understanding the jobs you're going to be doing and what you do a lot of. You know, that's why I had an internal debate for years about, are we with the other companies, like, are we to the point where we should buy and operate and own $500,000 to $750,000 milling machine? We sure are doing a lot. Sure are spending a couple $100,000 a year subcontracting milling. Oh, well, but they're also cleaning it, and they're getting these lots entirely ready while we're out paving something else. So is it really costing us 200,000, or, you know, because we're out still being profitable and productive on days when we've got someone else subcontracted out doing our milling and cleaning for us? And we never, and although we got to doing a lot of big capital commercial multiple thousand ton, you know, mill and pave projects, it never got to that point where the cost of ownership and maintenance and fuel and insurance and an operator and a semi and a trailer to pull it and everything that went into operating that piece of equipment made more sense to own it and operate it in house than it did just to continue
Yeah,
to spend the
a whole
two hundred
separate
fifty.
team that you have to pay.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's how you gotta. analyze, from $1 million milling, operation investment down to a $10,000 sweeper attachment for your skid steer. Like it's the conversation isn't any different in your mind and in your data and your facts and the stuff you've got to analyze. Say, hey, does this make sense to buy this piece of equipment? Whether it's a $500 tool, hand tool, power tool, or $1 million piece of equipment. Like it's the theory and the concept is all still the same.
Yeah, I remember the milling debate, and then another one that seemed to last for years was the right size and amount of rollers. Um,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that conversation went on so long because I forget the sizes you were debating, but one was a little bit bigger and made for more commercial work, but especially after
Hmm.
2020, you had gone more back residential for a while there.
Yep. Yep.
And you had a second one that was really small, but it was starting to kind of give out. Lots of
Yep.
things going wrong with it, not just sure what day it was going to go. So specifically for rollers, any kind of advice on that? Because based on social media, there's a heck of a lot of companies that even operate without one. So any kind of advice on it seems
Good old foot
it seems
tamp
like one
and
of
a
those
plate
things.
protector.
Well, yeah, the foot tamp. But it seems like one of those things, one post you'll see a foot tamp and the other one you'll see a new piece of gear that's testing the density as you roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's like, so where
Yeah, man.
that seems unnecessary. To me, just because if you know the thickness you're laying and you have all the technology on the paver, do you need it on the roller? But go to town on rollers if you want. I know I kind of threw a lot of things at you there.
Yeah.
It seemed like a huge decision for the
It was,
seems like
and I could,
equipment.
again, I could see the density meter mattering on a roller if you did a lot of capital projects that required density and nuclear testing on the job. Like if we did, 50% of our business required that, then maybe, but even as many large commercial projects that we've done over the years, there's only a handful of clients that ever really required that. I think Home Depot is one. I mean, it's usually your larger big box store, that have hired a project management firm to kind of oversee it, and then sometimes it's usually just an architect or an engineer that says, "Hey, we're going to do density testing on this because I look, I get it. Density is important. Compaction is. I'm not discrediting that, but I think a lot of times some of those things get built into the specs just to get built into the specs to give somebody a job and make somebody be able to fill out a form and say, hey, they passed density. But um, all that being said, yeah, I mean, again, it's we haven't we in this new business haven't invested in a larger roller yet because we haven't had the scope of job to warrant owning a larger roller. We've had a couple commercial projects this year where we had to be paving at a faster rate, and we needed more compaction, and we needed to have just the way the paving layout was. We needed a larger roller and a smaller roller to be able to keep up, to get the compaction and to be able to keep up with the rate that the paver is moving. And unless you're doing that a lot, it really, you just kind of want to own what you need for the way you operate, 50s. If you don't use it more than 50% of the time, then you really need to start thinking about, does this make sense? And I don't know if 50% is the number. I'm just grabbing some, like, you just need to understand, is it easier just because you can go rent damn near anything in this industry that you could ever possibly need, probably other than a paver. Um, Not a lot of places will rent pavers. I do know Gold Star NPG, Jeff Nelson, he'll rent your ass a paver. He's one of the only people I know in this industry and that's awesome. That's an amazing service because not many people will do that. But you can go get anything else you need or subcontract someone else to do it, like striping or milling or some of the other kind of concrete. If you're not into doing concrete, some of these a la carte items that that you may need done on projects so you can get awarded the job, you can find ways to get that stuff done or rent the equipment when the scope of work calls for it. It's really until you start seeing a trend, a pattern for an extent, not just, oh, we got a couple big jobs, let's go buy that 3 to 5 ton roller. You just bought a 70,000 ton roller that you might use twice this year and not get any of that work. Like you don't have enough history and data yet. You gotta make informed decisions. Um, and it's tough to do because look, it's exciting when things start happening and money starts coming in and you start becoming profitable and you see all this new shit online and like, man, he got a new 265 cat skid steer. I'd love to have one, but I don't need to go buy $100,000 skid steer right now. We're plugging along just fine with the used skid steer we've got. Have we had some discussions about, hey, we may only have one more season left with that skid steer. So we're starting the process of looking at, do we buy used? Do we buy new? When do we do it? When will it make sense? What would the benefit be of having two skid steers? Will we be operating a prep crew next year? So it's not, ooh, I want to go buy a new skid steer because that's cool. And it probably would benefit you in some ways, but in how many ways? How many times? How much return on investment? How much more efficient? How many man hours have you saved? Like you got to know all that stuff when you start talking about making these kinds of decisions. And that's where a lot of us get in trouble. We buy shit before we should. We get in way more debt than we need to be, and we have a bad year or two, and we're going bankrupt, or
Yeah.
we're calling the bank, or we're calling our vendors and saying, "I can't pay you." Uh, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it was making me think um about how common it is in any business that when you start getting a couple clients of that next step up, that you just kind of assume that you're ready to take on all that comes with the step up and all the equipment, that for some reason, that just because you're getting a few of those jobs, that you now feel like you need to own a certain uh, standard of equipment, whether it be newer, bigger, or best brand or anything. And especially renting that equipment can really help you out test, what type of equipment you need, instead of making a purchase of a roller that's way too big, for commercial work and won't help you much on residential work, but still 97% of your work is residential.
Yep.
So there's definitely a process there. Is there any thing that you like to buy or do every season as far as updating certain types of equipment, or just things that are beneficial to renew every year?
No, I mean, a lot of the not real a lot of the things that maybe we'll find ourselves, replacing or maybe uh, turning over maybe a little more frequently might, be our smaller tools, our hand tools, our smaller power tools, things like that do get used, the things that get used every single day for extended periods of time every single day. Those things seem to need, and it all goes down to how well the guys take care of them too. So
Yeah.
again, a lot of this comes down to getting your teams and your people and your equipment operators and the people that are using the tools, the implements, the machinery, the equipment that you've provided them as a business, the proper training on how to use it, how to take care of it, how to clean it, how to maintain it, how to grease it, how to change the oil, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not turning this stuff over so frequently. I mean, dude, the first two Leeboy pavers I bought one in 2012. I bought another one in 2012, and then I turned around and buy another one in 2015, and that tells you things like we were just, and I wasn't an absent owner, but I was absent and super uneducated and not knowledgeable at all about machinery, equipment, the field in general. Like I was more, for whatever reason, when I bought this company, I was like, I've got I own the company. I run the company. Going to sell. I'm going to brand. I'm going to market. I'm going to go to meetings. I'm going to go pitch the dream, sell the vision. And I have field guys that go do the field stuff. And until I start to understand that I better figure out all this shit if I'm going to be a successful paving asphalt operator, business owner. Um, and it was, until then, I mean, we abused those first two Lee boys. We only got 2 or 3 years out of them before they were just absolutely neglected, destroyed, broken. I mean, replacing metal, replacing iron, like just shit that broke on them that should never break on them. Almost like I wish I had some pictures of it. It's like almost today I'd be like, it is amazing how much damage we caused that $150,000 piece of machinery
Yep.
in 2 seasons. So that's something you gotta have people that you are trusting to be in possession of these very expensive assets you're buying. You gotta train them, you gotta hold them accountable, or you gotta have somebody that's training them or holding them accountable or teaching them or showing them how to own, operate, maintain, preventatively maintain your assets. Because those especially those, all your income producing assets. Those are the biggest assets you have as a company, aside from your workforce.
Yeah.
You know,
And you talk
it's
about,
it's the it's the man and the machine. I mean, that's it. It's the two. Those are your two workhorses:
yeah,
manpower and your machinery.
I mean, and think about, I mean, 150 grand, if you can get 5 more years out of that, I mean, how much money are
Easy,
you saving,
easy.
just by not having to go and reinvest in that? Um, when you, before you let your employees go for the season, do you feel like you have a good enough check and understanding of your equipment, or do you ask anything of them about the status of equipment or maintenance or anything like that before they leave?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we're close enough knit right now that we all have a pretty good understanding of what maybe what needs to be done on a daily basis with stuff, what's going on with stuff, what are the preventative things we need to be doing. It's like we're all kind of sharing those responsibility and those hats. But as this thing grows again, and as it was in the other businesses, the other business, there's daily inspection forms that need to be filled out. There's mechanical and maintenance write-up sheets that'll need to be filled out. If something needs worked on, if it's above the operator's level capacity of being able to take care of it. I mean, there will become a chain of command of things and steps and process and procedures that go into taking care of this stuff. And ultimately someone, whether that be the foreman of that crew or the director of operations or the head of that unit, whatever it may look like, will ultimately be the one that's responsible for, making sure all that stuff's happening. So, um, not having a plan of action to properly take care of your equipment is critical. And again, that's another piece to why the shop is starting to become so important, because we're literally, I mean, we're packing everything around we've got. We look like a fucking band of gypsies right now. I don't know what else to call it, but like we're packing everything we got around job to job because, um, and it works because we've got the box trailer that's got all of our tools and stuff we may ever need if anything happens, which also packs around our roll. We've got everything with us. Um, so it's a little more challenging to work on these things right now. I mean, it's got to be a nice, warm-ish kind of sunny day to go pull this stuff out and work on it outdoors in the elements. And by the way, if it's nice and sunny and warm outside, we're probably out paving. So it's we don't get a whole lot of we don't get a rain. Nobody wants to go pull this shit out in the rain and work on it. That's just the fact of the matter. That's just the reality of the situation. So we've got to be extra cautious.
Yeah, it's well, best of luck finding that perfect spot for the first place to call home this winter.
Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
and I'd say uh yeah, it's interesting because there's just really no plan on stopping it if we're going to keep getting warmer days and things like that. So I was ready to
No.
say, well, maybe this winter won't be as bad, but if you're still paving, it's kind of hard to work on the
Yeah.
systems.
Yep.
But yeah, that's Thanks for all the insight, Kev. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the insightful questions, Phil.
Oh, well, no problem. If you feel like keeping the party going, you, the listener, feel free to visit Pave It Forward on YouTube or on Instagram. Send us a message if you have any questions. And of course, if you'd like to learn more from mentors like Kevin this offseason, visit asphaltoperating.com or visit us on socials. We'd be happy to have you. It's an 8-week course, just going to be 1 day a week for 2 hours. We're going to give you a little bit of homework and plenty of other deliverables that you can use to set yourself up for success going into the 2025 season. Kevin, I definitely am looking forward to diving into the off season, because there's several things we have listed here as far as financial management and assessment, finding out where you can find more profit in your business, updating your operational documents, so your training systems, any kind of training advance or anything you want to do for your people, a new marketing plan, what was working, what was not working, all these things we're going to touch on here. We're going to dive into in the AOS program. But regardless, I'm really excited to talk to you about it. One, because it is vitally important. It is when you make the plans and actually have time to digest what's going on with your company. But two, because you're working the whole season, and this is our chance to really catch up and dive in and have hours-long sessions where we're diving into data and marketing and these things that you don't really get to focus on when you're running 12 to 16-hour days during the year. For this episode here today, Kev, any last thoughts for the people?
I think you just, man, really made me think. There's so many. I don't know. This is just so important. I mean, there's so many people, there's so many folks in our industry that are so damn talented at what they do, and they're so good at applying sealer or painting lines or paving a parking lot, or understanding how to pay, understanding the machinery and equipment, how it all works, and to put out this beautiful work and do great jobs for customers. And they never get ahead because they don't ever take the time to understand there's a whole other side of this business that you really got to start wrapping your arms around with data and metrics, and just so you can make better decisions, just so you can start having the intelligent conversations about, like we just had, about when to buy equipment and when to rent equipment, just all of the other little things that add up to be big deals. I mean, it's when you take all of that talent, and look, it doesn't have to be you. That you can hire someone to help run your business. Like, you can still go be that amazing person out in the field that is an artist and that does amazing work and can execute at a high level and knows how to lead a team of people out in the field. Like, you don't have to do it all, but you have to do it all within your business somehow to get to the next level. Because without getting to the next level, like the level you're on, just it starts feeling like, and you may be progressing and you may be winning and you may be growing, but you can do so much more. Like, it starts going from a trend like this to like, oh shit, you like, it just happens. And you just, once you wrap your arms around all of it, it starts to become pretty freaking cool. So,
Absolutely. It's enjoyable. It becomes, there's less fear involved. There's more confidence.
absolutely.
And whether you decide to pay attention to it or not, it's there, and no one else in your company is going to do it for you, as you are the business owner. And also, if you don't have a good sense of data, you're going to take the advice from the people that are operating your equipment that will absolutely tell you need the better piece of equipment. You need to
Every time.
Yeah,
Every time.
so without doing that and be able to at least understand yourself or explain it to them, whichever you feel like you need to do, you really are going to be spending more money and digging holes that you're just going to be trying to get out of every year. So really maximizing what you can do for, as we say in our mission here on the podcast, what you can do for yourself, for your family, your team, as far as maximizing revenue and profit margins. If that ends up being, your goal to allow yourself more freedom, more opportunity within the business to either expand or just go home knowing that you've done enough to support you and your family and your people's families, so they're more secure. So it's, as you can tell, we love running our business, and we can't wait to help anyone out there that's curious enough to join us. So please join us for Asphalt Operating System. Please reach out to us on social media or through our websites at paveitforwardllc.com or at asphaltoperating-system.com. Kevin, as always, I can't wait to talk to you again. We'll do this soon. If you're sticking around, catch another podcast or go visit our other outlets. And until next time, thank you all very much, and we'll see you then.